into the nitty-gritty behind monsters from different lore. However, there is a general focus on D&D.
We are players and DMs, so we draw from our experience with different tabletop RPGs, and we tend to go off on tangents every so often.
If you're looking for facts and historical value, this may not be the podcast for you. But if you love discussing monsters and all of their potential, just for fun, then we got you covered.
Adult content warning, and with all that out of the way, my name is Dylan, and I'm joined once again by my two brave monster hunters.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Melina.
And this is Mornings with Monsters. Created through a curse, or possibly as offspring of a cursed god, their wings beckon storms, and their voices unwary travelers, heroes and gods alike. With the face and torso of a beautiful maiden, and the features of a bird, talons, wings, all the good stuff, put away your livestock and give your children some earplugs, because this week we are hunting the Harpy.
Now hold on a second. I don't know
I
about.
knew I was going to get that. Yeah, some of them.
Yeah.
I think Beautiful Maiden is when liberties are taken with the Harpy. Because I feel like Harpies are meant to be like, I guess it just depends on your preferences. Because I think old women are hot as fuck sometimes, but they are meant to be like dirty and crusty female.
Depends on what you're drawing it from.
Because in D&D, their main quirk is having a song that charms people.
Yeah.
And if you think about it like that, then we can extrapolate that the Valkyrie and mermaids or sirens are similar in that they trap people by beauty. Could it be the song switching your perspective to see a charmed version of the Harpy? Probably, but I don't know if any person seeing a Harpy would ever actually see the real Harpy until they die.
Yeah. This one is harder. I think this is one of the harder ones that we've had to research. It goes way further back than even the kobolds so far. I think this is the oldest one. There's winged women depictions of demons and monsters in really, really old Asian culture, and then more of what we know the Harpy as is from Greek mythology, and then you have the Valkyrie and all of the different different depictions of winged women and all sorts of different really, really old mythology. So we're all going to have different opinions on what it was depending on what we read, even D&D, they're different from editions, just like normal. They say one thing about them in first edition, they're completely different. They speak common in 5th edition, so that's
that's new.
Yeah, that's new.
Okay.
Yeah, they had their own language called Harpy before at least 5th edition. So yeah, I guess people just got sick of role playing screeches constantly.
That's just boring. People should get into screeching.
Half of Harpies is called a scream.
I saw that. Yeah.
200.
Oh, it needs 200 for a pack?
Yeah. Well, it can be up to 200. The smaller ones are called something different, and
flight.
They're a flight, yeah.
Which is
and
super
that's
cool.
7 to 12.
I like that.
Yeah. I enjoyed that it was called a fucking scream, because that's probably all you heard.
Yeah.
They might be able to speak common now, but if you take away their screeching, I feel like you can't take away it.
Right. Yeah. There's some weird stuff in D&D with the Harpies right now, because I think there's some official edition where they live in a kingdom, and there's a bunch of different kingdoms or screams.
Nyx?
Huh?
The kingdom of Nyx, the goblin realm that lay upon the high plateau of I can't continue with the voice.
Yeah. There's so many different Harpies and so many different things they do, but I feel at their core, they are essentially the same. I mean, their main thing is they're half bird, half woman. They have the siren song. I was watching some video and they were like, in the monster manual, there is no siren because it's just the harpy.
That makes
Originally,
sense.
you know,
That would make
Yep.
it's a flavored harpy.
which
Yeah.
is weird to me. I mean, I always kind of pictured the siren as like just like some beautiful woman that like floats up to your boat, but they had wings.
Yeah, in the few like things that I've seen a siren, like video games mostly, they are a beautiful woman, but like they have wings out of their head, out of their back or something. You know
Or
what I
out
mean?
there like tail,
Yeah. Yep.
like almost like fins rather than wings.
Yep. Yep.
But I will say, I think that you're probably closer to the truth even more with sirens. They're probably described as beautiful because of their song,
Yeah. I
but
think
I
so too.
definitely feel like that's a whole trick. And if you want to look at like the Greek mythos behind it too, it's like I feel like that does support the like altered mind state essentially
Yeah.
that the siren or I'm sorry, the harpy's song can put you under,
Yeah.
which it's just like, "Oh, don't mind me. I'm just a beautiful maiden even if I'm a dude."
Yeah. Like
Um,
it reminds me of the episode in What We Do in the Shadows, season 3.
I haven't seen the
Uh,
newest season. How many seasons are there?
I think there's 4 now.
Okay, I haven't seen the new one.
So, two of the characters, Laszlo and Colin Robinson, the energy vampire, are like driving around on a stolen boat and they're just like duding around, you know? And all of a sudden they hear like this gorgeous song coming over the water. So they follow it. And there's just like this very plain woman with like the legs of a bird, uh, just singing, you know? And then they come and they like,
She's like a chicken woman.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
She
She was,
had like a beak-like face and everything.
Mhm. Yep. And it was hilarious because like, uh,
They were like, "What the fuck?"
even the vampires fell to the charm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I don't know how much how similar that is to when we actually play. Like, can a siren or a harpy charm a vampire?
From what I understand, one of the most dangerous things about the harpy, and like some of this is even from Greek mythology, is like they were created by, well, like in Greek mythology, I think they were kind of like rumored to work at Zeus's will, so they could pretty
Mm-hmm.
much charm anything. And then I've also read about several instances of harpies charming like pretty strong demonic things in D&D. So I mean,
Wow.
if they're charming demons, like I wouldn't put it past them to be able to
Vampires would be
charm
fine.
a vampire. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only creatures that are like the only way you can be unaffected is if you can't hear.
Yeah.
And then elves have like a natural resistance to a
Hmm.
harpy song. I don't exactly know why.
So like if we're talking about like D&D, why elves might be like originally the way harpies were created in D&D was there was an elf, she was walking through the woods, heard a song, and then started walking towards that song, and there was a god, another like elven god, who also heard the song. She saw him, fell in love. He said he didn't want to love her, so then she like pleaded to the gods, and the woman was given the power to like sing the song again to try and capture the heart of this elven god. And so she sang the song to him. He didn't want her anyway, still. So she cursed the gods, and the gods were like, "Well, we gave you this power, but now you're cursing us. Fuck you." And they turned her into an harpy, and they twisted her need for love into like they distorted it until it was like a want for human flesh, desires of the flesh, and then gave her wings and talons and stuff. So essentially, the harpies are elves. I mean, at a long
At the
time
core.
ago, yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe maybe they have that natural resistance to the siren song because, I mean, there was pretty much elves involved in every step of the process, and they were, you know, the idea of harpies was the idea of wanting to love a god of the elves. So, I thought that was
What happens when
interesting,
you want
though.
to fuck a god, dude?
Yeah,
You know,
you
you
know,
just don't do it.
you don't do it. Oh man, but I thought that was a fun story. Um,
That's a really cool story.
yeah, it's a little weird, but usually the creation of mythological creatures is usually pretty weird, especially when gods are
I mean,
involved.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
God's like making fuckery things.
Yeah, yeah, like the original
I
uh,
was
Greek
finally
mythology.
and,
Oh, you're
talk
here.
about weird creations.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like gods give birth to like horses and then the harpies and then, sometimes they give birth to snakes or, whatever. It's real weird.
Two of those three things are the same god.
Yeah. Yeah. Super weird.
Yeah.
But
I think it's really interesting when I was reading. People think that there is not male harpies
Cool.
just because they all look the same.
Oh.
So like uh we gave the description of like a female top of the body essentially and like a
Yeah.
reptilian lower half. So like even male harpies have a female appearing body. They still have breasts. They still um yeah, so that's why like they assume that there's only female harpies or female sirens, but there is actually both.
That's
Um
cool. Just a little androgynous, huh?
yeah, like they're just they're much well, not even necessarily androgynous, like they are female presenting. Like
Interesting.
which is which is interesting. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think it goes along with the whole like, drawing them in type of
yeah.
um thing. Oh yeah, they don't wear clothing.
Yeah.
If so it's like
That makes sense.
I would yeah, they don't wear clothing. They only cover themselves with like trinkets and jewelry from their victims.
Oh,
So yeah, and I would imagine like never thinking there was male harpies if the only time you ever encountered a harpy is just like tits in your face with some
yeah.
jewelry on.
Like naked tits too, not just like
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like
and I feel like in a lot of the depictions in media, even with like the sirens, especially, like they're always a beautiful woman until their true intentions are revealed, and then it like,
yeah.
you know, flashes, and then they're
Yes.
like this evil hag or this like crazy creature.
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Super weird. I also think the trinket thing is a little strange too, because they have no interest in wealth. They don't want to wear any clothes, but they always take that trophy. You
I
know,
wonder if it goes back to the like longing for love curse.
maybe.
And so like they take a part of every victim just to like remember them and it's like
Yeah, kind of like take a piece of their love, but almost like a
Ooh.
drive for them that they don't even understand themselves.
yeah, exactly.
So if we want to compare harpies to serial killers, because that's what I also listen to way too many serial killer podcasts. Too many, that's actually probably not true. But I have been binge listening. So the with that like love aspect of their need and want for love got turned into a need and want for flesh. So, like, I can imagine, like, in their twisted minds, it's still like, I love this creature,
Yeah.
even though I'm like super fucked up and I'm enjoying torturing it and killing it. I have like released it into whatever the fucking, I've released it into death. Like, so it's like that, it's twisted version of love. So it's like taking a trophy to like remember that connection by, which I don't know, in my brain is like very similar to how serial killers function as far as trophies. Like this, not only are they like proud of that victim, they still get to be connected to that victim, to that act, to that to in their mind that act of love,
Yeah.
that act of like commitment to this act, to this creature, like
It's funny because that actually reminded me of a movie that is not very like fantastical at all and deals with this man who was born like with the ability to smell everything, everything. Like
God.
down to like what the stones in the river smell like and what how different it smells than the water of the river, you know? Like
Huh.
I
uh
hate that so much.
and
Right.
like he has really bad luck throughout his life and like every time he leaves a person who like cares for him, they die as soon as he leaves. When he realizes that he can smell everything but he himself has no smell, he like goes on this quest to like find the most beautiful smelling people and like release them from that like bond and create a perfume that was like an Egyptian myth that would like basically elevate him to a god. And it was a siren song basically. Like he put a little bit on a handkerchief and just went like this. And like a crowd who was 10 minutes ago ready to hang him and stone him to death for the 13 murders of women all fell in love with him like immediately. And
Huh.
it's like that's pretty interesting that they use very siren and harpy
This
like
is a movie Perfume.
yeah. It's like one of the best movies ever.
I feel like I've
I
seen that at some point.
Perfume, the
I
story
don't
of
know
the
if you've
murderer.
seen it, Dylan, but I have a very distinct memory of my mother and Chris watching it.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Maybe that's when
Yeah,
I saw it. I saw them
you weren't
watching it.
allowed to come out because they were like, they're turning people into perfume. You're in
Yeah.
elementary school. Go in your room.
And it's really
Yeah.
interesting because like the entire time you're confronted with a lot of like graphic visual. The movie, the film, the people who filmed it were like really intelligent about how they balanced that physical with like this realm of like love that he operated in, and that's kind of how I see the Harpies. Like they are violent. They are like ready to consume you wholly, but they believe that they're doing it from this like deep curse of love that they cannot overcome, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the siren song to me is an interesting concept. It's kind of like that concept we discussed. I think, like the concept of like the drive for like the kobolds, where they wanted to like they didn't care if they died because they wanted to like continue life like like ideal of long. Well, I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it's almost like something we can't really understand because we've never heard a siren song. Like they depict it in movies as like this angelic choir, but to me, I feel like if you ever heard a true siren song, like beautiful music or beauty in general is subjective. Like
So subjective.
it would have to sound like something we couldn't comprehend, Like it
Yeah,
would.
like the Cenobite or something. Like they don't come to you in a regular form. They come after the person who opens the box, you know? Like
Yeah.
I feel like my siren song in my head, even from the same harpy, would be completely different than either two of yours. Either
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and not only that, it would be like seeing a color that doesn't exist. It's like hard to you can't picture it because it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Or
like I only have ideas like of musical concepts because I love music that much that I'd be like, all right, well, it, like 3 days ago I heard a cover of a song and it literally made me cry for an hour. So like certain things about that song would probably be in my siren song because,
yeah,
you know,
they're just perfect elements that tweak
yeah.
things in your brain.
But even at that point, knowing a song does that to me, I couldn't imagine what a siren song would feel like because holy shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's got
I
people
think
crashing their boats.
Right.
crashing their boat, sailing away,
Yeah,
never returning home.
because it was the Odyssey, right? That Homer wrote about
Yeah.
their boat. Okay, and so like they were called something else in that book.
So he in the book they were never even described.
Because weren't they called like the Linnaeans or something like that? I
Uh,
thought that the island had like a name in a story that someone warned Odysseus about.
yes, they did. He was warned about them, which is why he knew to tie himself to the mast and
Yeah,
have his sailors put wax in their ears.
right.
And he was told like anyone who ever hears them, they're already dead. But he
Right.
alone could survive and listen to the song if he tied himself to the mast. Um, but in the book, they never like described their like what their appearance like.
Okay.
I think they were
They-
described as like a strong wind.
Oh, well, there we go.
Yeah, which originally that's what they was like
Yep.
the spirit of winds, things
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
like so many names that the Greeks have come up for them, but like the one recurring theme is that it's like a gale or
Hmm.
a hurricane or something like that.
Yeah, I think as the gods got older and angrier, they shifted from being the spirit of wind to being the spirit of storms and things like that.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
like in the latest depictions in Greek mythology, the Harpies were just wretched and killing everything. So
Yep. Yeah, which is funny because like if they came from Zeus as his like form of charm,
yeah,
like that's
yeah,
that's a quite a twist.
right. I mean, he wasn't such a great guy at the end of the
They didn't
day.
really like him towards the end, did they?
No, no. Cool. I think we have time for one prompt before the break. The one we always start with. Where was the first time you saw the Harpies? A very
I
hard
think
question for me.
I
Very
think
hard.
mine was Yu-Gi-Oh, to be honest.
Okay, makes sense.
Um,
Were they
yeah,
in you?
I'm trying to think back like of the timeline, but I'm pretty sure I started to like play and watch Yu-Gi-Oh before I got into Final Fantasy. So for one episode, Final Fantasy does not take the first experience
Right?
for me.
Yeah, for the first time. I don't know, Melina. Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure. I can't pinpoint it, but I'm gonna say um young adult novels
Sure.
because like that was who I was because of my age, because of what was around. Like Twilight was popping when I was in middle school. So like it was like all of the novels that could be anything about mystical angels and demons and blah blah blah. And it's amazing how many harpy like creatures I can like semi remember being in those books or being just a part of the storyline. So I can't give you like an exact thing just because most of that material is a bit of a blur, and I would probably not know the name of even like two of the books, but I could picture them in my
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. Like I guarantee I've seen them in childhood at some point in some movie or something, or read them in some kind of book because they are in everything. They're such an
Everything.
easy like thing to kind of just write in as like your generic monster that you have to kill. Um, but the first time they stuck with me, and I'm not going to break the trend, was World of Warcraft because
Nice.
they are literally all over the place there, and I remember like taking an interest in them because I was like, dang, you always gotta smash the harpy eggs. Like that just seems so brutal. Like
It
every
does,
time there's
but
harpies, you're like,
pump the
kill.
eggs out.
Yeah, it's like collect 40 harpy eggshells. It's
I mean, to
brutal.
be
Yeah,
fair, they can give birth to 20 up to 20 eggs at one point, and only 3 of them are like possibly gonna survive.
Yeah,
So
and then they eat the ugly ones.
yeah,
um,
Wormwood.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy 14's Harpy is like a main boss, and she has some dope ass abilities.
Yeah.
I wish I had like fodder Harpies. That would have been fun.
Yeah, it was always like you kill the droves of the scream, which they weren't called in World of Warcraft. Maybe they were. Um, you kill all of them, and then you smash all their eggs. You turn in the quest, and then there's one more quest where it's always kill the Harpy matriarch. And you have to like go through them all again and find the little hut that she's living in, which is weird. I don't know if they have little huts. Like,
I could not imagine why something like a Harpy would have a house,
yeah,
Yeah,
personally.
I feel like
Because
they
like
might be like tree dwellers and cave dwellers that
yeah,
I was thinking like at the most you would see is like a naturally hollowed out island where they could get into a cave and like make use of that for maybe a horde. But that would be it.
I kind of picture them like in a nest, like up high, so they can watch the people traveling by.
Interesting.
Swoop down on them.
I feel like it would just take a certain. I feel like your location, your locale, probably just depends on the life you've lived as a harpy.
Yeah. Because I guess we could imagine like a family of harpy living high atop like a church tower in old medieval times. You know what I mean? Like an abandoned like factory or something like that. Something with a vantage point. You know.
Although I didn't read this exactly, but we're talking family of harpy as in just like a grouping of harpies. Sure.
Yeah, like not like familial ties or
Yeah.
anything.
Because I was gonna say they're more like birds.
Yeah.
As in, you know, once they can feed themselves, you're on your own. You can be part of the pack.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, you know, if it was a small collection, a flight,
Flight.
right? Like it would be more so like younger ones who like by chance met up. You know what I mean? And like they're like, oh, this might be our chance to like lay some eggs and like fuck some people up, you know? And but like I don't.
As young as 2.
What?
As young as 2.
What?
Yeah, 2's when they start laying eggs.
Damn.
But they can do it at will.
Yeah, they don't have to procreate. They
I didn't see anything about their lifespan. Did you guys?
Yes. So interesting.
Yeah.
They can live up. I'll tell them they can live up to 50 years, but they almost never do. Do you know why, Melina?
Yeah, because as soon as the old age starts to weaken them, their kin kill them.
And eat them.
Usually around 25 to 30 years.
Wow.
So
we'd all be dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'd all be dead. Which is like interesting to me, and I feel like if nature's running its course and the harpies are pretty much left to do whatever the harpies will do, that like getting to a place where they have a scream of 200 harpies would be exceedingly rare. I mean,
yeah, I couldn't imagine.
because they have no love for their children. The kids basically eat whatever scraps are left. So hopefully 2 out of 20 of the eggs that hatch, you know, those 2 survive. And then past that, they eat each other, and they don't just eat the weak ones. Sometimes they get into disagreements about who gets to keep the trinket, and then they fight to the death and eat that one. And then if the other one is wounded enough, then everyone else will eat that one. So it's like super brutal. I mean, they're cannibalistic. They are carnivorous, and they
take survival of the fittest to the highest tier.
Yeah. So I mean, like for harpies to get to a grouping of 200, just sounds like they have to be in a place with a lot of weak travelers where they're not like they don't have to worry about eating each other as much.
Yeah, like somewhere easily accessible to a King's Road or something like that.
Yeah.
They're big on like improvised weapons, so I just kind of picture harpies just snapping back and forth at each other, just like hitting each other with bones and clubs to the death.
I can see that. I always imagine them with like claws too for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have claws.
Okay, so I see like maybe one just like sitting there gnawing on some dude's like thigh, you know, like just minding its own fucking business, and then somebody else like tries to take it by the foot, you know, and it like ignores it for a while until it like tugs too hard and it misses like a bite, and then it's just like that's it. They all go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
The truest form of chaotic evil.
Seriously.
I can see that. And it's very beautiful to think about, but it's also terrifying as like a mortal to imagine like just how quickly your experience could end, you know?
Well, it's like, oh, you're not 100% anymore. You're not perfect anymore. You weren't born 100% imperfect. That's it for you. Bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
No
You'll feed
remorse.
another one who is.
Exactly. All right. I think that that fun note is a good place to take a quick break. Hey guys, I just wanted to check in here in the middle of the episode. Harpies, fun one. I hope you are enjoying it as much as we enjoyed reading and learning about these guys, or girls, or both. You know, I don't know if we've gone over that yet. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to another episode. We are still releasing episodes every single week at 8 a.m. on Friday morning. So make sure you check back with us every single week. We might even have some exciting bonus content that we'll sprinkle in the middle of the week here and there. We might have just done one, or we might just about to be doing something interesting, a little bit different. But yeah, make sure that you message us with any requests for monsters to discuss at morningswmonsters@gmail.com. As always, I would like to thank at @MizenCake on Instagram for our amazing cover art. Super cool. You can check out more stuff there on Instagram. You can also check out our Instagram if you want to see pictures of the monsters that we talk about, because they're pretty crazy. Especially this week's topic, the Harpies. They're pretty weird, you guys. So check us out over there at Mornings with Monsters. That's pretty much it. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again next week. I'll let you get back. Enjoy. Welcome back, monster hunters. We've sharpened our spears and finished tying all of our nets, and we are back hunting the Harpies. With some prompts. It's the fun part, right? Let's see. Are they evil, Harpies? Or is there, I guess a better question would be, is there any justification for them not being evil?
I don't know. From what it seems like, they're driven by base things like hunger, and if we want to get romantic about it, like a lust that
Yeah.
is maybe interpreted in their own brains as love. But I don't know if there's a ton of intelligence there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It's like,
Yeah.
is a shark evil? They're pretty smart. They just eat. But they don't lure people in.
Yeah, I think that there's no reason to say that they're not evil. They might have started as like a manipulated good creature, but as a harpy, like they don't have like the bandwidth to not kill and eat their kin at the very least.
Yeah.
Like, and they crave like human flesh or demi-human flesh, and they take enormous joy in hunting and torturing
Yeah.
their victims.
I think they are evil, but I'll also, on top of that prompt question, just throw in the, are they misunderstood? Because I think the misunderstanding of the Harpy is that they are a tragic creature. And that's what makes them evil. And it's tragic that they're evil, but they were a cursed thing at the start, and they've only devolved since then. And their need for love has been so twisted over and over and over again through the generations that they are feral beings lusting for something they don't understand, beyond their control. And I would say if they didn't utilize things like the siren song or luring people into traps or eating their babies, then maybe we could argue for them not always being evil. But
My only argument is that I believe that they might not even be on the scale. Like, would you put, like you said, would you put a shark on that scale?
I would say shark isn't evil. It's part of the food chain, right?
I think
Yeah.
harpies
So
have
like, is a cow
choice.
like a good then because it eats vegetables?
That's a good point. I mean,
I'm more of the like persuasion that beasts are like immune to morality.
I agree. I would say they're not beasts. They pray to a god. They
They like physically, like they like willfully pray.
there is, well, like in certain instances there's like groups of harpies. They don't all pray to a specific god, but yeah, they'll make offerings to them. They also have a society, as brutal as it is. They talk to each other.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
can
ravens and crows have society and they talk to each other and they steal from people and like
Well,
they train wolves to kill for them.
Raven's one of those things. I would say that it's not. It wouldn't. It's a subcategory. Sure, it's a creature, it's a beast, but it's not. There's some type of something else there.
Like a
You might
demi-sentient or something like
Yeah,
that.
like, they have some type of ability to understand. It's kind of like the difference between sending somebody like, allowing somebody to take the insanity plea for killing somebody. It's like, you couldn't stop yourself from doing that. You didn't know what you were doing, and you showed you didn't know what you were doing. But, like, when you keep trinkets and you, like, do that kind of shit and, like, you fight over, like, who gets this prey, like, you hunt, like, that is showing, like, you have a better understanding. Like, you have like a feeling about this thing, even though the feeling is I need to kill this thing is my prey. Like it's been so twisted from their original form, which is if we want to go into D&D lore, it could be elves. If we want to go off what we've been kind of talking about a little bit, like that they have to come from something. It's less like they're created from something that can't speak, especially um now that they talk common.
yeah,
Now,
Like
yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, like giving them that ability, I think it's kind of like saying it's kind of like reassuring. I don't
Reaffirming.
want to say this, reaffirming. Yes, that's the word. That like they do have more of an understanding of what they're doing,
So that
and
would put them on
they
the scale then.
choose to do it. Not like I want to say I read something that even though they're like so sadistic and like that's what they will do, they will back down if they know that they are inferior in power.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
They are cowardly in that way,
All
or
right.
you
And
know,
to be
self-preserving.
cowardly, like yeah, they have that self-preservation. They have that cowardliness of knowing like I am not the end all be all, which I feel like shows it has to show some type of understanding,
That's
which means that
self-awareness for sure. Yeah.
yeah, they have to come slightly out of that category.
Okay.
It's kind of the same and like with ravens, it's like ravens have like facial recognition. They
For
are
generations.
loyal creatures. Like
Yeah.
it's there's something different that makes like this subset of creatures. I will say a lot of beasts shouldn't fall in the morality like
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
Like mosquitoes are gonna get killed by daddy long legs. Like it's just kind of the way it goes. That's how they're
Right.
gonna
yeah,
like how things are gonna be. But like
Once that like choice comes in,
yeah.
yeah,
Because like,
that's what you're saying is morality
once
there.
that I'm
because
too
harpies
scared
could
of
survive. Oh, I was gonna
sorry,
say,
go on.
no, I was gonna say harpies can survive off of eating vegetation.
Yes, they can't.
They're like it processes in their body. I read that they are carnivores, but by choice. And
Yes.
I also read something that when I was reading it, I was like, oh, well, that answers if they're evil or not. And it
Yeah,
was
for
part of
sure.
like part of the reason why they get in those squabbles that lead to like you know fights to the death. And it says one common thing that they argue over is how much to torture their captured victims to get them to the perfect point of like how tortured should they be before you eat them.
Wow.
So I
Okay.
was like, that's pretty damn evil.
That's fucking evil.
Because
Yup.
they're all in agreement they should be tortured, but how much to tenderize the little, you know, the little travelers?
Notoriously malevolent and sadistic, taking enormous joy in hunting, torturing, and killing their victims.
Yeah,
Always seeking more.
yeah, they're evil.
They're
Is
fucked up.
and
Pretty.
I would say that to the only other point on are they misunderstood, I would say I didn't know, and I'm sure
Gendered
most
and
people don't
misunderstood.
know, that they were a twisted form of the want for love.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big misunderstanding because if you're just
That's in
facing it,
D&D though, right?
Yeah, I mean that's in D&D, and
Because like when I read about their creation in Greek mythology, it's like as the will of Zeus. That's
yeah,
that was the wording that stuck out to me.
yeah.
I also think you can probably, if you read and look into enough of it, there's still like the twistedness is probably still comes from that need and want for love.
Well,
Like,
most of Zeus's decisions were based off of a horribly disfigured form of love in one way or
Yeah,
another.
you would if they were the will of Zeus, then they were more than likely what charmed people into sleeping with him in the first place.
Yeah.
And then when the person's spell broke and Hera's consequences came, I mean, if you're saying that, if we're saying and agreeing that harpies are sentient to the point where they can be like aware of their life and their existence, like they could see what they did,
Yeah.
you know, and like maybe they didn't start off super shitty, but yeah, that would fuck anybody up, I think.
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, if you for you guys out there, go look at like the earliest pictures of harpies because they're like little chickens with like pretty lady heads. They're pretty awesome.
Yep.
There's some real wild depictions of harpies. Um, okay, cool. Let's see. We're right on track for our last prompt question. My personal favorite. How would you like to see or use them in gameplay or media? And I got one if you guys need some time.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Go for it.
So, I thought I'm sick of smashing harpy eggs, you know. But and like my thought would be more of a story. It could be a, TTRPG setting. It could be really anything, but it's more of like a story driven by the curse of the harpy. So, I mean, curses usually can be broken in some way or another. So I thought it would be interesting. Say like there's a village that's been they live somewhere near a mountain where the harpies have lived for hundreds of years, and they come kill their livestock or something every once in a while. And you've heard about this either as a player or the main character hears about these harpies as they're passing through. And then in one way or another they find a harpy whose vocal cords have been damaged, so it cannot fall. It can't use its siren song. And so it learns to communicate in another way and explains to this person that like the harpies are misunderstood and that they're a cursed being, and that there's a way to break the curse, but they have to go on this crazy harpy filled adventure to break the curse for them, and hopefully at the end of the day save all the harpies. But I love the idea of like a harpy who can't sing.
I like that.
That's very interesting to me.
Would be interesting.
I think it would be fun to run a character who starts off like, okay, it's inspired by one of our characters in the campaign IDM because she's an Eldrin elf, and uh, she like changes her form through like her stages of emotion, and we're also in the Feywild, so like things happen, you know.
Yeah.
But it would be fun to play an Eldrin who's like been abandoned by like the rest of the elves for whatever reason. I'm thinking like something benign like a raid of orcs caused them to move really fast and like the baby just got forgotten on accident, you know, like something super simple. But throughout life, that Eldrin has never known acceptance or like love, but like is quick to give that love out. And slowly, just ever so slightly, all the time, they shift closer to their like winter phase, which ends up being this like grand transformation at the end where they like are consumed by a cold wind and their like heart like freezes and breaks at the same time, and they just like emerge this like Eldrin Harpy hybrid,
That'd be cool.
you know, like make them a bard and you've got me entangled forever, you know,
Like a forgotten elven harpy.
like just someone that like started off with really good intentions and just like the right amount of trauma, and like through their own needs slash unwillingness to draw boundaries for themselves. They've let themselves be consumed by the need for love, and it's turned them to the Harpy song. You know what I mean? Because even if it's only temporary before they like tearfully consume and torture their prey, like at least for that point they had that connection, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be a tragedy, but that's what Harpies are, you know? They're a tragic character, and I really enjoy playing that up because it could happen to anyone to be consumed by grief and loss and the need for
100%.
love.
Absolutely.
It's that like they're a tragedy of a creature, but that is like a tragedy for a creature.
Yeah, exactly. Like the experience that they walk is not only harmful and painful to them, but it's also like a warning of harm and pain for us.
Yeah, and I love the shifting to their winter, justifying the change.
Yeah, because
that's
like
so cool.
you know, you would start the character and they'd be in spring and they'd be like
Hmm.
loving everyone and giving their heart out to every fucking barmaid that came up to them, and like as like the rejection comes, and like they start to shift into summer and they start to get a little bit more coy and a little bit more like devious and start using their music.
Yeah.
And like in ways that their bar teachers told them like is frowned upon. It's not exactly like not allowed, but disrespectful,
Yeah.
and then they shift down into their autumn because they've started to lose hope. Maybe they get raspy voiced because they haven't used it in a while, but they also like start to look ragged and just like kind of go out into the streets blindly being like, I need a hug, I need a hug, you know?
Me.
Right. It's just like some characteristics of human loss transcend like where you are and how old you are. And I feel like the Harpy definitely represents a lot of those.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But without too much redemption, so I'm
Yeah.
cool with that.
Yeah. The redemption's the hard part, especially for Harpy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Once you go south, kind of downhill.
Yeah.
You got anything, Melina?
It might be cool to see like something that was just like solely focused on, even if it was just like a part storyline, like just like the absolute brutality of like how they exist. Because like we only ever see them in media as like using a siren song,
Yeah.
like using their songs to like draw people in as these mystical like beings of whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And like sure you might see the killing there, but like from like a Harpy's like point of view, almost like a short film type thing. So you couldn't do like a
Like
full
a
series.
Discovery Channel documentary on the life cycle of a Harpy.
Yeah.
Something like that, because it's like I just imagine it like not even with like words really,
Nope. Just a lot of sounds.
just a lot of sounds,
Dramatic
like
music.
exactly, and just like the absolute like everything's fine and then half the tribe's dead.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
in an instant.
that's crazy. I mean, that would be a really cool thing to watch. Because not many people like end up in a Scream and live to tell the tale.
Right.
Yeah, like almost like watching like the development of a Scream, because one, it would be super rare. Two, it would have to be fast. Like
Yeah.
they would be such
I mean, they
like
live for
fast.
25 years.
You guys could open it up real cinematically with like a fisherman who like got blown out of range by a squall who like gets taken by one, and then uh
He
right
finds
before he gets taken, he like pulled out his phone, you know? And like you could have like an hour-long thing until his phone dies of just like laying on the ground like in the flight,
A Harpy
like
picks
at
it
a
up and
weird.
turns its head like that.
Yeah, and like
Takes it back to the Scream.
yeah, and like hangs it up in a like place of prominence, like so that
Oh,
it's near
man.
the trinkets or something, but like it like is looking down on the flight. So basically, you get an hour of like unfettered flight footage.
Yeah,
Love it.
that'd be sick.
Because it would be terrifying to watch
That's
that.
the
Oh,
start
yeah.
of it, and then you
Yeah.
go into the history, and then you go into the
Like
the
straight
development.
The
documentary.
bird's eye view of the. Oh man, that
Yeah,
sounds
that would be
great.
cool. Okay, so we need to
But
get this
in
started.
that hour,
Yeah,
it's
this needs to happen now.
the, in that hour, it's the complete destruction of the
Yeah.
entire
Yeah.
society. Like the entire Scream kills itself in that hour. But like the whole documentary is like
What leads
that
up to
starts
it?
and ends with that footage, but the whole documentary is leading up to the Scream being at an actual like size of that many harpies.
Yeah.
And then in that footage, it's they all just want to kill this one guy, so they all kill each other.
Love that.
Yep. All right, guys, start pulling out your pockets for that CGI budget.
Yep, we're gonna
Yeah.
need a little
It's
bit of
gonna be a
for
lot.
We're a shit ton of amazing makeup artists.
That's true. I would much rather go physical over CGI.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Ugh.
That sounds like a task.
We need some
It
good
really
sound engineers too, because like my imagining of like how much crumpling feathers, in that shot
No, they're leathery. They're
Oh.
leathery wings.
Oh, they don't have like feathered wings?
I don't think so. They're like leathery wings.
Let's imagine them with like
Yeah, feathered wings.
yeah.
I guess like some of them have feather wings, but like interesting.
I don't
That
know.
changed at some point.
Hmm.
Because
In
like
their
a lot
original
of the,
descriptions, they had leather, like like Maleficent type
Yeah,
leathery
like-
wings,
Yeah.
Okay.
less feathery. But at some point, they did get more feathery.
Yeah, I mean,
There
they're
might-
like half, like the bird is usually a vulture
that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
that they're kind of like depicting, or
Mhm. Which makes a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of sense in their
telling you,
head.
OG description was saying
yeah. Well, like
That's interesting that it changed like that though.
clawed feet, clawed hands, whole black
Makes me
eye.
wonder like what real creature back like in ancient times had leathery wings that we just don't know anymore, like doesn't exist,
a bat.
Dragons.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I guess a bat does have leathery wings.
What are
yeah,
those
they've been around for a long time.
creatures that like attack that one dinosaur that attacks the tourist in Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
Pterodactyl.
Yeah, those guys. Their
Well,
wings.
I don't
would-
think humans and uh, I don't know if there's any winged lizards that have ever been alive at the same time of humans,
I don't know. I
but
don't think
there's
so.
plenty of dinosaur
I
bones.
didn't realize we were making. I didn't realize they had to be alive at the same time. Sorry.
Mostly for like where did they get the inspiration to like draw leather winged things? Like even demons like way back before Christianity existed in that same form where they were like very, I guess, bat like.
Well,
But that
yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense.
you see bats at night under the light of like
Yeah.
the moon. They're pretty terrifying.
And some of them are like huge. I have
Yeah.
a horrible phobia of bats, so
You do?
yeah,
not
I didn't
unjustified.
know that, and they got into my house when I lived in like an old house, and I like didn't realize I was terrified until that happened, and they were flying around, and I literally just collapsed in fear and hid under a blanket.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Oh,
like they don't
yeah.
trigger me to look at them or anything,
Yeah.
but like if they're flying, I'm
You need a cat in your house.
no. Here's the thing, right? I'm terrified of them flying around, but like imagining one of my animals killing it, and then I have to like not only hear the like terrifying squeaks of a dying bat, but like take care of it afterwards.
Yeah.
What my mom would do, we would leave the house. We
Oh,
would just like go outside.
One time they were trying to get the bat out of our house, and so they shut me in my room so the bat wouldn't get in my room. And the bat was in my room when they shut the door. And so I was in the room in the dark with the bat flapping around, and I'm on the top bunk.
oh my God! I almost threw up. That is
Sorry.
terrifying.
Alex
No,
is
that's
like,
okay.
My bad.
right
Trigger.
now.
Oh no.
I just Ellen or Chaz used to just grab a sheet and like
Yeah.
throw it over him.
The trick is you you change the lights because they go towards the lights and stuff.
We
So
shut off all the lights like in the house and then turn down the porch light and open the door.
yeah, that usually works.
And up outside, but we would also like let the cats.
Well, the
My
cats would
house
go
was
for
like
it anyway.
120 years old, so it was like
Ah.
tiny, and they always just like slammed into stuff, and I hated it.
Ugh.
Just get out!
All right, guys. Any final thoughts on the Harpy?
No, I
No.
think we talked
Covered.
a pretty good amount of them.
We learned a lot of this poor,
We did.
tragic creature.
Yeah.
It's pretty evil, unfortunately.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Evil makes
Also,
the good.
wait, I discovered the word, the category. They're not beasts; they're monstrosities.
Oh,
Hmm.
I like
They're
that.
like cursed or experimented on creatures.
Like altered in some terrible
Yeah.
form.
I bet that confuses a lot of, learned D&D people setting up, like, because you would think either humanoid or, beast at
Yeah.
first, but then
It
see
literally
monstrosity.
is a category. It's a type.
I'm into that.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think it does make sense. I still think the raven is in a category of its own, but
All right. Well, I think that that pretty much is a sweet ending to our our Harpy episode. We will see you next week on another episode of Mornings with Monsters. It's gonna do it for us today. Bye.
See ya.
okay.